And I am here with these three wonderful people. Ian Rosenberg, who's the Senior VP and Global Head of SAP NewGen, right? And Christine, and I'm going to say it wrong again, Needham.
You got it.
I got it right. Who's an award-winning Forbes 30 Under 30 entrepreneur, and Sergio Fernandez de Cordova, who is the chairman of the Public Foundation.
Thank you.
So what I wanted to do first is just let each of you introduce yourselves to the group and talk a little bit about how you've gotten to this place where you are a champion for the SDGs.
Okay, so thank you so much, and it's really a pleasure to be up on this panel with some of my most favorite people. It's like the first time on the panel, not with you. I've been with you, but now with you, right? So I'm Anne. I work for SAP, the world's biggest software company, and SAP have signed up for the 17 Global Goals in 2015. And my team is a global team in 117 countries, where we have a community of 3,700 universities. We map out innovation communities all over the world. We set up FQ lounges for gender equality. We are setting up innovation spaces around the world. And we have a big innovation space in New York at Hudson Yard. And what we do is really to combine the corporate world with innovation coming from all sources, from accelerator startups to academia to citizens. But it's not just about innovation, it's innovation with purpose. So it's really to rally, how do you really innovate and at the same time work with the 17 global goals. So that's what we do. And at Davos earlier this year, we launched the Citizen Agenda. We see the rise of the citizen now in a big way. We also see it here at South by Southwest. We also launched public-private partnership, because I believe that we are public-private partnership. I actually think this is the only way we can get to the global goals and reach them. And then we really go in now. This morning we had sustainable fashion, so we go in with the sustainable fashion agenda, the farm to table. We go into all the different industries. SAP cover 25 industries and have those conversations. And then not to forget, we need a little bit of science fiction on top of that. So with Innovation 4.0, we use science fiction to really have the mindset to reach the global goals. So that's what I do with my global team.
Wonderful. Christine?
So, hi everyone. My name is Christine Souffrant Intim. Originally, I was an entrepreneur on the Forbes list in 2016, building a travel company for emerging markets. But because I realized as a startup entrepreneur, if you're not in the right ecosystem, you don't get the right support to scale. So in that year, I actually transitioned to becoming an ecosystem enabler and not just a startup founder. To now, we run the world's largest digital accelerator on the planet. We have about 1,000 companies across 90 different countries do our programs entirely online every single year. And we thrive on goal number 17, which is working with over 140 different partners, from Google to Facebook to any type of Amazon Web Services, you name it. We partner with them to help support entrepreneurs from around the world, to help build and scale their companies, not only during the accelerator program, but post the accelerator, because one of the biggest issues entrepreneurs face is once you do a phenomenal program, where's the community post that, right? So we kind of say you're part of an accelerated community for life. So as a result, because of that digital space that we created in terms of leveraging partnerships like SAP, which has been a phenomenal partner in what we do around the world, we're also able to activate tech hubs around the world. One of our SDG goals is actually to build tech hubs around the world, especially in emerging markets, by 2030. Started this in 2017, started in my home country of Haiti. Don't let my accent fool you, I'm actually Haitian, hence the Souffrant. And literally, if you think about Haiti and tech, you can't build a tech hub in a place like Haiti without global partnerships. So in 2017, with 100 global speakers from around the world, we literally activated Haiti as a tech hub. Today, we have incubators, partners, Facebook is there, Google is there. We had tech moguls like Jack Dorsey to Bill Gates to Tim Draper fly down to Haiti. And we literally have leveraged that ecosystem development through tech hubs and the partnerships that we built through the accelerator program to now having the largest also footprint in emerging markets, where we run about 20 summits around the world, 10 of which are across the African continent. And actually was a speaker there and activated SAP Next Gen in Ghana, which was by far last year the largest tech summit in West Africa. So partnerships is not just a meaning of a conversation at a point to leverage brand exchange, but really what platform do you have that we could combine with our platform and our distribution to actually accelerate growth towards one goal? Because by 2030, our hope is to be a case study for how do you build an ecosystem through partnerships. So that's why we're excited to be here. So thank you.
Thank you. Sergio.
So my background and how I got into partnerships, so my background's in media my whole life. For the last 31 years, been in everything from newspapers, .com, media companies, media agencies, smart city companies, billboard company, and for the most part exited out of everything in 2011 because I realized that there was a missing link of public and private coming together. There was a generational shift happening, with Gen X and below, where there needed to be more engagement of how we communicate, how we activate people, how we educate people. And coming from advertising my entire life, I realized that with media, every day we tell people what to do, what to wear, what's cool, where to travel, where to go, what to look like, right? What to watch on TV, what company is cool and who's hot and who's trending and who's not. And really was fascinated by this when we had our billboard business that, where Steve Jobs would actually select the billboard himself, right? And it's just like, that's the one I want, and I'm willing to pay $150,000 a month. And just realizing that, well, why can't we make all this space, all this access to this media to then create partnerships, right? Make this the currency for social impact. And, it's when we launched the foundation, did a TEDx in Wall Street talking about the currency. Media is a new currency for impact, right? Media, new currency for social impact. And since then, we've been hosting at the UN. We host a lot of media summits where we bring together the advertising and media industry together to focus on how we are using our assets, right? Not just telling you, hey, change who you are. Rather, what about your workforce? What about the people? What about the depth and breadth of what you bring as an organization, like what SAP is leading this conversation, globally today. And we really got involved in 2012 at Rio 20 when it was the early beginnings of the new agenda called Sustainable Development Goals. And to me, what was really exciting about that was, as you talked about, was number 17. The crazy part about when all the goals were being created is that 17 was the last one, right? It's like, guys, this is the reason why we are all here. And how is this not, the most important part? Because it's the glue that interconnects every single other goal, every target, every piece of how the countries come together. Because once the SDGs were launched, number one question was, well, how do I do this now? How? I need data. Right, I need information. So we've also then since got involved in how media, technology, and data are a force for good and impact. So that's kind of our foundation with Public. That's what we do is really focused, and I think our glue is media and partnerships. And we're really excited to be here, and we're very excited about this panel because I think this is really the key driver of how amazing projects that you're working on and they're working on can come together, multi-stakeholder agendas.
I love that. So in talking about partnerships, I believe that a true partnership is when there's collaboration, right? When it's a multi-stakeholder, when people have equal room at the table as a team, because that's when change can happen more quickly, when innovation starts to begin. So my question would be twofold. One is, what do you think is the power behind a partnership? And I think clarity of what you bring that's unique is what makes the collaboration work, when everybody knows what each person is doing and it's clear. So my question would be, what is your uniqueness that you bring to the partnerships that you guys are seeking out?
That's a really great question, because that's what it's all about. So if you look at SAP, as mentioned, we are in 200 countries around the world, and we're across 25 industries. And I talk about the magical 8 years, where the last 8 years we went from a point where there was limitation to what you could do with technology, to you could do anything you want with technology. That opened up that Silicon Valley started this whole open innovation community that the entire world have learned from now. The exploring phase where accelerators, startups, Singularity University. You do all different kind of exploring bootcamp, incubators, you name it. All of this stuff that we all know really well have been growing over the last 8 years, and we have now innovation communities all over the world, what we call Innovation 2.0. And what I love what Christina is doing is that she's making sure that all voices are heard around the world. And you can say, why is this interesting for a company like SAP that this is going on? The thing is that when you can do anything you want with technology, and there's no limitations, and you need this exploring phase, you need a lot of conversation happening in that exploring phase, inspiration. And and we all got that with the Innovation 1.0, 2.0, but then people stood up and said, all that is great, but what about the 17 global goals? Because we don't just innovate, we do innovation with purpose, with this Innovation 3.0. And this is where a tech conversation went over to a purpose business conversation supported by technology. But the thing is that this is not easy, and you need a lot of exploring, and you need a lot of ideations. And this is why we as SAP, we sell software. This is what we do. And in this whole exploring phase, we invite everybody in the world who are really good in certain industries, are really good in 17 global goals, are great in making sure there is an ecosystem where all voices are heard all over the world, to come in and work with SAP's customer ecosystem. It's needed because we need this mindset. So we at SAP, we provide this platform. We have our entire SAP ecosystem and customers as our partner ecosystem. And then we call the SAP Next Gen partners. They're both SAP Next Gen partners to talk to our ecosystem, to inspire our ecosystem, but not just in the classical innovation hubs of the world, but in all innovation hubs of the world. That's what we do.
I love that.
So our platform, which is called Momentum, which essentially builds the largest digital accelerator on the planet, but these tech hubs around the world, we thrive on partnerships and bringing value in two ways. I call it distribution and documentation. And here's why. Because as I said, I'm Haitian American, my husband's Ghanaian British. We come from markets that people don't look at in terms of tech ecosystems and hubs. So what we do is we do a great job of distribution digitally, so democratizing access, because I think one thing with partnership is how do you democratize access to the right voices around the world? Just because you don't know about it or you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not there, right? So we are able to really inspire people to stop with the excuses and think that, oh, Haiti doesn't have an emerging economy. It's too small, it's in the Caribbean. It's 12 million people in Haiti, the same size as Rwanda on the African continent. So distribution is key, which is why we run the largest digital accelerator on the planet and the largest tech summit network, right? Second is documentation, because one thing that emerging market nations lack is proper documentation. So one thing about partnerships is avoiding to repeat the wheel, where everyone's building their own in-house initiatives or their own in-house processes. If someone is better at doing something better than you, partner with them and give them your value set. So for example, for us, we realized that we cannot go around and build the tech hubs or build the VC communities in these countries. There are other ecosystems that are better at that, right? So Anne already has an activated network of universities around the planet, and we need to build more university ecosystems, because when it comes to startups, you need to have universities to build the case studies so that way people can know what has happened before. So that way if an entrepreneur from Jamaica realizes like, hey, I don't know what examples to replicate. I'm only looking at Silicon Valley. What has happened in Nigeria? They have a university location to find those case studies. So that's an example of documentation. And to give you an example of this, all of our tech summits usually feature almost every single incubator, accelerator, ministry of government, and usually the president or the prime minister presides over the summit. So you have high levels of private sector, public and private represented at those summits to talk about how do we document what's already on the ground, to the point that we created the first tech ecosystem map. Per country. And that was how the beginning genesis of having Facebook and Google and all these partners come down, because now they're able to say, okay, visually, there's a documentation process to understand that, okay, these are the gaps. We could come in as a VC. We could come in as, a media company. There's a lot of media outlets, but they're not focusing on tech and startups. So for us is, figuring out where the gaps are and figure out your biggest strength. And because we come from those markets, documentation and digitization is something that we hold very dear as to how we bring value to our partnerships, and reinforcing that you can't do it all. I think that's the most important message, that even if you're a big behemoth with a brand like SAP, or you're part of like networks like iHeartMedia that has a huge distribution network, you still cannot do it all. And leveraging the beauty of everyone's synergies and kind of create that puzzle map that makes things flourish faster as well. Because now we live in exponential times, as you know. Things are not incremental, and you need that process in place. So yeah.
So from our perspective, again, where we are looking at media as a currency, when the work that we're doing more sort of in the boring side of the conversation, right? Where when we were looking at the 17 goals that we're saying we were part of the committee when before the launch of them, was how do we actually communicate this so that these communities can actually activate their networks, right? How do we actually communicate something? If you guys saw the first original 17 goals, it's all government language, right? So this has to be translated to everyday people, and saying, just so that they understand what it means to them and how it even applies to them as a business, as a company, as a citizen, and or as a resident of a community, or as an employee of a company. And so a lot of the stuff, the way we kind of look at it is we're educating, right? Educating folks. Then we're taking them through that journey using the media itself, right? Then engaging them by, what is it that you care about now that you found out about 17, right? Then activating them, because now that they've learned and they've become engaged, now it's like, okay, what can I do? And then celebrate and create partnerships, right? Because now that you've actually become engaged and activated, right, how are you then making sure that you're connecting to all the right people? And then this way we could celebrate it, whether it's at an event, at the media zones or what have you, and then work alongside to sort of engage in the public and private together, so that we can actually engage others by celebrating how these partnerships are happening, right? Because sometimes we get so caught up, we were talking about multi-stakeholders before, that as a multi-stakeholder, you have an agenda by one single stakeholder leading the charge, which is important, but then those stakeholders that were brought together can then go off and create their own sort of, now that they actually have done it, and then how are you creating that communications so that others know how to engage. And I think that what happens in a world of impact is a lot of stuff has been happening in a vacuum, and a lot of what we've been doing specifically with the UN and the Sustainable Development Goals is really focused on educating people, really not pushing my agenda. I care about a specific set of goals, but that's not my agenda to you. It's just, hey, educate you first, get involved. And really for us, from our perspective, again, the thesis of why we started the foundation was, media more and more today is becoming more ubiquitous, right? It's in everything we do, and it's now we're measuring it. Last year's summit, we dedicated it to data, right? Because we went back to our entire community and said, hey, we've been talking to you about the goals since we launched them in 2015, but now what we want to do is find out, what have you learned? Right? How are you repurposing this information? Where are you focused on now that you actually spent the last 4 years, 3 years talking to your clients, talking to your audience, talking to your employees, talking to your partners, talking to your governmental sectors? How are you using that information now that you have data? Right? And that's why we talk about the data. One of the platforms that we've built in partnership with a bunch of different organizations is SDG.org, which is really focused on where is the future of data tomorrow, right? How are we bringing this information to all the next generation of leaders? Today, if somebody says, I want to start a foundation in Somalia, right, and I want to go help someone there, and I go online, I'll never find anything. Right, and if I do, I'm going to find an organization that's a gatekeeper locally that says, hey, donate money here so that I could give you access. Well, what about it? I just want to get educated first and really break down those barriers. So a lot of what we're focused on and working with SAP and others is really in the next 4 or 5 years, how do we create the sort of, instead of the Apple Store for apps, the API platform for people that want to change the world, right? So you give everyone the tools and then communicate this to a broader global audience that says, hey, look, you too can be like her. And you too can be, the next person that creates that foundation in your local country. So, from our perspective, again, these are different tools, but, our sort of glue is the media, right? And then we bring in all the different pieces and help, create the public-private partnerships.
So for the people that are listening that are interested in partnering with you guys, what are things you guys are looking for, right? And I know it depends on the project, but in general, what types of things are you looking for in partnership partners?
So I think that the first thing that I look for, and that's why I think I've been on a number of panels here, South by Southwest, but this year is actually my most favorite one. And the reason is that I'm sitting together with two people, like, even though we are so busy, we do so much, but every time we meet, we just need to look at each other. We already totally synced our mindset. I mean, we just reach out to each other. We already building, right? So what I look for in partners is the real deal people who share the same mission that I'm on, and on behalf of SAP, to really make sure we reach the 17 global goals. I mean, SAP, we can do so much because we have the technology, but again, we need to remember using technology. For many years, you use technology to efficiency and optimization, streamlining business processes, not always thinking about the purpose, the output. This is what we need to make sure we do on every single business process today. But it's a mindset. So the partners that I look for is that, I mean, we cover all industries across, as we are in 25 industries. We are, in most countries around the world. I'm looking for the real deal people who want to be part of that mission together with SAP and the SAP Next Gen Partner Network that we have created. Because it's only together we can do the change. And I would say that many people that I meet and I talk to, it's not that I haven't figuring it out. I don't have the solution. I have pieces of the solution, and with your pieces of the puzzle, maybe we can do it. We can do it together. So I look for inspiration and ideas, but it needs to be people that will join the mission, and in the long run. And not to forget the last thing I want to say, working with my team, my dream team, who is also in the room. We work fast. We accelerate. If I say we do it, we do it. Otherwise, if I have a conversation and nothing is out of that conversation, it was a waste of a conversation. So that's the way I run. You guys know that, right?
Yeah. When it comes to partnerships, everyone has a lot to bring to the table, but no one has a real process sometimes. And one thing I love about what Anne just said is the simplicity. Based on a conversation, there's not a whole bureaucracy to get to the end goal, which is how do we get started, right? And for us, it's like, taking the leap of faith to even just pilot. We don't have to think 10 years as a partnership, 5 years as a partnership. We don't have to have every single contract known to man to even get started. It's like, how do we find the synergy between post this conversation to get started fast and get started, with a mentality of what is our end goal? Because the most important part is what we want on the other side of that conversation. And so for us, we look for the simplicity and finding people with that mental mentality around that. And so for us, we are very simple in the fact that because we have a huge distribution, and keep in mind, global means we all do operate in the U.S. Out of the 20 summits, 6 of them are in the U.S. We actually have the biggest tech series in Future Tech, where we represent women and diverse voices in AI Tech Summit, Blockchain Tech Summit, VR Tech Summit, Nano Tech Summit, and Space Tech Summit, which is being hosted at NASA this year for the 50th anniversary. Who would have thought it's hosted by Black women, right? And so I think it's very important that we also represent that diversity of voices in the US as well, and Western markets. So for us, we're looking for speakers, right? If you are an influencer and you know what you do that brings value to an ecosystem, especially when it comes to tech, policy, and emerging markets, let's have a conversation. We are a good platform for that, right? The second thing we look for is amplifiers. I think people forget the power of how they distribute their conversations, whether it's you're a local blogger or whether you're Forbes. We have everything in between when it comes to media, and we have everything in between in terms of ecosystem builders. Whether you're an accelerator, whether you're a program, whether you're an initiative, leverage our distribution to get the word out there about what you do. And that could be in the form of a speaking engagement. That could be in the form of the post process, because we don't want to just be an event like, for example, South by Southwest. The beauty of being here is that after this, how do we continue the dialogue and continue the relationship? So for us, always looking for speakers, always looking for partners who have a process post those engagements. And second, the most important thing is the simplicity behind your message and what you're trying to do.
So I think from a what's missing perspective, there is, when you start to look at, the businesses of tomorrow, right? A lot of the businesses of tomorrow are now being built around the DNA which has purpose, right? Which has impact. So it's not like trying to get someone to even follow one of the 17 goals. It's just actually to build purposeful businesses, right? To build things that are actually helping make the world a better place. And I think that what's really, really missing, and we've had this conversation too, is the private sector really stepping up. You know, we did a white paper 2 years ago with Harvard Kennedy School on, you know, business and the SDGs, right? I was on the board of the SDG fund. And, you know, part of the idea was, you know, how do you start to move dollars into impact and show the business community that doing good has a profit? You know, Richard Branson, when he started the Carbon War Room, right, it was $1 trillion economy. He's saying, hey, guys, this carbon space or saving the environment, saving our planet has a revenue model. Why isn't everybody jumping in? And I think that, you know, sort of there still is like a right and a left, unfortunately, in that when you look at impact and business is saying, hey, I'm going to embrace it, but I don't know, you know, I'm not I don't sit that far left, and it's not, right? It doesn't belong there. It's not being a tree hugger because I believe in climate. It's I believe in the future of this planet, and I'm an entrepreneur. And so I think that really what's missing is really empathy around this conversation and entrepreneurship, right? Because, you know, we can mine data out of everything, but like you and I talked about, it's all old, right? It's talking about the past. It's the baby boomers era, right? It's like, hey, what about the Gen Zs, right? And all these other folks that are saying, hey, I want to go work at a company that is actually not just has a corporate social responsibility, but is actually doing something, that is implementing it across their entire business line, that is implementing it across their entire product line, and that is actually looking and mining and using data and actually educating us, to your point, and then actually educating others, right? And saying, hey, this is how we're doing it. And by the way, feel free, you know, you should learn from us, right? And see, a believer right back there. She's, yeah. And it is. It's about the next generation. We deal with so many folks when we bring in a lot of our summits, or we bring, again, our summits, when we do the summits, it's literally we bring in the private sector. So when we do our media summit, there are no foundations there. Everyone's like, oh, I want to be invited. It's like, no, only private sector. Why? Because the goal is to educate them. The goal is to show them that they don't have to wait in their roles to retire to then join a foundation and say, oh my God, you know, I'm finally doing good because I have money. And it's about what resources you have in your company. What Ann is doing at SAP is revolutionizing how multinationals are using their resources, their platforms to engage, educate, activate, and communicate. And if 100 Anns existed out there, like, we would be living in a different tomorrow, right? And we need more.
Agreed.
We need more. We have many people here, even in the audience, who Ingrid, empowering a billion women, right? It's the platforms are there. We have the ability, and I just think that, you know, the part that's missing is really the missing link right now. We've done enough communications. We're engaging these audiences. Is when the private sector and, you know, the Procter & Gamble's. I mean, Paul Polman did an incredible job of showing how you could shift a global company that was one of the worst for climate and every aspect of the 17 goals, and literally showed that he could actually quarter over quarter, you know, raise profitability, right? By just talking to people, right? And engaging them about what they care about, and that their products actually are involving purpose. And I just think so private sector is a massive catalyst. I think that'll change everything. And we're there because now trust has been built by other leaders, you know, the SAPs through Ann, Paul Polman with Unilever, and other folks that are really, you know, literally stepping up and owning the conversation, because it starts with somebody leading, and leaders lead and other leaders follow leaders. And so I just think in the private sector, I think that is something that's really exciting, because that also brings capital to the table. And I think that, you know, from a perspective of actually starting another organization, another NGO or IGO or impact platform with the limited funds that are out there, the companies actually can play a major role. And instead of doing major advertising budgets, they could utilize that to actually create something that's going to get them more value than a campaign. You know, it's like Pepsi. Why are you advertising a product? It's like, why don't you use your budgets? That's what we tell these people at our media summits. Use some of those budgets and you'll transform the world. The same way you have by building a sugar-based product that now nobody wants to drink. right? And so it's, you know, and it's a reality of, hey, you know, it's like, how are you using your assets? And it's only the private sector that could really move it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I think educating the private sector that consumers these days want to do business with companies that care more about more than just themselves, right? So I think we are out of time, but I did want just quickly to have each one of you tell everybody how they can get a hold of you if they are wanting to get into partnership with you.
So you can email me, call me, come to Hudson Yards in New York, which is an innovation with purpose, 30,000 square feet, which is actually an external-facing community place. You can work out of there. You can do meetups. The only criteria is that it needs to be innovation with purpose. My team is here. I'm available afterwards, but it's n.rosenberg@sap.com. But I will say I'm hardcore. You need to be the real deal. I'm on a mission to change the world. We're on a mission to change the world. And we accelerate because we don't have much time. And if we have a conversation and we agree on something, we execute.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in terms of where you could find me, from a physical standpoint, with Anne, you know, we host a lot of our events and initiatives in New York City when it comes to kicking off our global tour for these summits at SAP at Hudson Yards. So just a representation here of a partnership just right there. So credit to Anne and her team for supporting us in that regard. Via email at Christine@HaitiTechSummit.com. That's probably the most immediate way to reach me to not only activate any way that you want to engage with us globally at Haiti, but also Nigeria and around the world, even in the US as well, because as stated before, we host not only the largest digital accelerator on the planet, but we also have the biggest distribution of tech summits in emerging markets. And I guess like the most important thing is don't overthink the email, don't overthink the outreach. It could be as simple as saying, hey, I'm interested in this country or I'm interested in this topic for women. How do we activate, right? And one thing that I was talking to Anne about is that, you know, as a female entrepreneur, a mother of 2 daughters, not only do we look for partnerships to accelerate what's happening in emerging markets, but how do we activate the people behind those projects and initiatives? So now we're hopefully going to accelerate with the first female digital accelerator on the planet. And so it's stuff like that, you know, where just don't overthink it. You know, just come to us with, you know, what initiatives that you're working on. And the synergy comes with the conversation. Because a lot of times we're trained to try to pitch something specific by reading people's bios. If someone goes online LinkedIn and say, okay, maybe I'll focus on this. You never know, you know, what someone's interested in, and they might not even market it publicly, right? So just come with simplicity, come with enthusiasm, and that's the best way to reach me at Christine@HaitiTechSummit.com, or you can find me bouncing around speaking at other engagements at South by, and it was a pleasure being with all of you here today.
For me, everything from Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and email is Sergio@public.org. And, you know, again, I think I echo, you know, what you just said, because it's just, I think that state your purpose, right, and your intention, because, you know, just like, you know, we receive hundreds of emails, not thousands, and it's hard to decipher things, you know, when you're moving at fast speeds. And I think I'm always a huge fan of less is more, you know, get to the point, you know, and really articulate, you know, what it is and what values, because then that just drives the conversation forward. It's not being rude. It's just basically saying, hey, you know what, we want to collaborate, but, you know, investing a lot of time into something that you're still exploring, that's talking. And so I think, you know, we're excited to connect with folks that are, again, looking to do things, international community, public, private, multi-stakeholder, media for impact.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.